Today I want to talk about a cross-genre novel, Transference by Kate Jonuska. Do you prefer stories with magic or the contemporary world? Do you like atypical characters or ones who seem like real people? Often literary and genre fiction are at odds with each other, but they don't have to be. You can pull elements from both to create an outstanding story. This is what Transference does. In Transference, Jonuska brings these two worlds together through a close third-person point of view, a snarky sense of humor, and magical realism. This is Ignited Ink Writing, a channel dedicated to helping writers like you transform your writing so it lingers with readers in the way Transference does. Because writing that lingers gets remembered and recommended to others. I'm Caitlin Burvey, editor and writer. Let's start with Dr. Derek Verbank's Private Fantasies. Because Transference is written in third person, Dr. Verbank doesn't talk directly to the reader. He's not narrating his story. But readers still get to see inside his head. They still see his self-deprecating thoughts, his insecurities, and his sexual fantasies. The book begins with, "For a mistake that ruined his life, the sex should at least have been good. But no. The orgasm that cost Dr. Verbank his job at his prestigious psychiatric practice had been mediocre at best. Seriously, he'd had better climaxes in his hand in the shower than with the patient." In this passage, you can see how kind of dirty Dr. Verbank is, so it would be overwhelming to be in his perspective all the time. That's why a first-person point of view wasn't the best choice for this story. But third-person close still allows the reader to get Dr. Verbank's voice and his character while giving them a little bit of distance from his icky sexual fantasies. Also, Dr. Verbank isn't the most trustworthy person, so if he had been a first-person narrator, readers might question his reliability. And reliability is key to the success of the plot of this story. This story has a single magical element in it, and it's otherwise set in the real world. In order for that magical element to be believable, the characters and the narrator need to be believable. Dr. Verbank can't do that, so third-person close is the best choice. Third-person close allows the readers to get to see Dr. Verbank's perspective through his thoughts, feelings, and dialogue. But we also get the author's perception when Jonuska describes the scene and the setting and writes the exposition. An example of these two disparate perspectives is Dr. Verbank really likes women's butts. So when he looks at a woman, that's what he's looking at. But Jonuska is able to describe the whole woman and allow them to become fully fleshed out characters, even though Dr. Verbank doesn't necessarily see them that way. Authors who worry that third-person close might put too much distance between the reader and their characters should read Transference. This is about as close as third-person point of view can get, and it's almost first-person. You're in Dr. Verbank's head a lot, and you get to know him really well as a character. So it is possible to use third-person without having the pitfall of the distance that it can create. Next, let's talk about weaving humor. Humor is present in that very first passage, where Dr. Verbank is revealing how he got kicked out of his prestigious psychiatric practice. And that snarky, funny, witty humor is present throughout the book. Humor works in Transference because it's a part of the characters, the story, and the plot. It's not just a technique that the author is throwing in there to try and make the book entertaining. It's actually an integral part of the story itself. Humor is a really important part of Dr. Verbank and Janet's relationship. These are the two main characters. They each don't really care for the other very much, but they're forced to work together. They deal with their dislike by challenging each other through witty comments. They're challenging each other's perspective. For example, when Dr. Verbank is trying to convince Janet to test her magical ability, the scene goes, "Janet stomped a foot ineffectively in the cushy grass. Is this absolutely necessary? When a neighborhood Republican sends you melting into a corner," he, Dr. Verbank, answered, "then yes, I think so. I think you can handle some distant, mild exposure to a harmless stoner." Humor that's built into the story like this becomes more than just a funny comment. It becomes a part of the characters and it makes them more real. And it becomes a part of the plot and it makes that more realistic too. It becomes genuine instead of just a trick or technique the author is throwing in there. This is something you can do in your own writing. If you are thinking about writing something humorous, ask yourself how you can make that humor a part of the character, the story, and the plot. The final aspect of transference I want to discuss is the use of magical realism. According to the English Oxford Dictionary, magical realism is a literary or artistic genre in which realistic narrative and naturalistic technique are combined with surreal elements of dream or fantasy. Often in literary fiction in particular, magical realism is our everyday world plus one magical or surreal element. This is how it works in Transference. There is the normal greater Denver area world happening in the story, and there's one character who has a magical ability, and everything else is normal. Because this ability that the character gets is often associated with superheroes, Transference appeals to both that genre of fantasy readers and the literary fiction readers. So it has a wider audience than it would if it didn't have that single magical element. And it also has a wider audience than it would if it was solely a superhero story, which it's not. Jonuska is able to expertly weave together the characters and the plot in Transference, so it appeals to these two different readers. She's able to let it be character-driven and plot-driven at the same time. She does this by focusing on her characters' strengths, flaws, and desires. She creates inner conflicts within the characters to inform them and their development, and she creates external conflicts to give them further obstacles. Dr. Burbank is insecure and has a lot of self-doubt, and what he wants more than anything is to get back his professional esteem. Janet is dealing with anxiety and this out-of-control new ability. What she wants more than anything is for her ability to go away or to at least gain some control over it. At the same time, they face external struggles, both in their relationship with each other and in their relationship with the other characters in the story. They even have things like a runaway bus to contend with. By focusing on her characters' need to grow and change, Jonuska keeps Transference both plot and character driven. This is something all writers should strive for. Most readers want both memorable and interesting characters and things to happen to them. They want both characters and plot. Finally, I want to leave you with support for Transference by Kate Jonuska from a professional editor. As an editor, writer, and former MFA student, this polarizing rift between literary and genre writing can be incredibly frustrating. Why should a writer have to choose between elegant prose and action? Or a solid, well-developed, memorable character and an interesting plot line and world? You can have all of those things in your story. You don't have to pick one, and you shouldn't pick one. The story will be better if you strive to make all of its elements the best that you can. Literary and genre fiction writers and the genres in general can learn a lot from each other. Literary fiction is all about the prose and the characters, and genre fiction for the most part is about the plot and the setting. If you put all of those elements together, you'll have an outstanding book. Jonuska does this in Transference. She pulls the superhero ability and plot from genre fiction and the elegant prose and character-driven story from literary fiction and combines them, and it worked really well for her. She's able to fuse these two categories together through her close third-person point of view, her use of humor, and her use of magical realism. And this is something you can do in your own writing. You can pull elements from different genres and from different writing styles to make your story the best that it can be. What did you think of the characters in Transference? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to Ignited Ink Writing for more videos like this. Videos that tease out the techniques writers are using to make their books successful, and to help you transform your writing so it lingers with your readers. I'm Caitlin Burvey, editor and writer. To find out more about me, go to www.ignitedinkwriting.com. There you will also find a chart comparing the different points of view. All right, now it's your turn. How can you use elements from different genres, close third-person point of view, humor, and/or magical realism to ignite your ink?